Greetings, greenhouse people. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and in an effort to provide this information in any way folks choose to consume it, we are releasing it in video and podcast formats. For this episode, I am joined by two awesome guests who I've known for a long time, and I'm really excited to talk with them about an important topic that's really important for our entire industry. First, Susannah Ball. You might recognize the name. Susannah is the fourth generation owner of Ball Horticultural Company and has led the company's sustainability efforts for a while now. How long?
About 5 years, I think. Yeah.
About 5 years, amongst all sorts of other roles and responsibilities in our different global companies. And also joining the podcast is my buddy, Seth Reed, who recently assumed the role of Global Sustainability Manager. How long have you been in this role?
5 months.
Yeah. Like that.
So 5 years, 5 months.
Yeah.
It's a good mix.
It's a good balance.
And if you're a regular listener to the Tech on Demand podcast, you might remember that Seth and I had a discussion a couple months ago about the future of horticulture, and we solved all the industry's problems then, right?
We
Wow.
did. And
Must have missed that
I was
one.
technically a sustainability manager then too.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So,
Well, that's good.
We'll
That's
take
good.
credit. We'll take sustainability credit.
It's a great episode. Go back in the archives and check it out. But Susannah and Seth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Excited to be here.
Our overarching discussion for this episode is about sustainability. And it's a term that I think can mean 100 different things to 100 different people, maybe 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people, which is why I titled this episode Do Better. And that's a term that I actually heard from Seth and Susannah when we were getting ready to record this, and I thought it was really apropos for the conversation. And as you're going to learn over the next half hour or 45 minutes, really every company, every division, every team, every person within an organization can impact sustainability in their own way, and the specific actions that you take are pretty much limitless. I could ramble on about why this is an important topic, but I think as host, I will let my esteemed guests give their spin on sustainability, and then we'll dive into a new report published by Ball called Sowing Sustainability, and why the company decided to release this, and how the company's focused on this approach to people, community, and the planet for about a decade, probably a lot longer than that, and what the future could hold. So I'm interested in what the term sustainability means to you both, and as a sub-question, what it means to a 120-year-old multi-generational company. So I'm going to start with you, Susannah, and talk a little bit about what sustainability means to you and the company, and then hand the question off to Seth.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having us on to talk about this topic. What does sustainability mean? I mean, like you say, it can mean a million things, but I think I like to just look at it at its most basic, right? Like it's right there in the name, sustainability, right? Like, can it be sustained, right? So when you think of it that way, I think it lines up super well with kind of like our long-term family, generational kind of mindset that we've always had, right? Because it really is about like doing things for the long term, not for the short term, kind of having that generational mindset like people talk about, right? Like I'm taking care of the planet for my kids, right? Like you're really trying to take that big long-term view. So I think it matches up really, really well with what we've already been doing for 120 years, right? Trying to have that long-term view, trying to make decisions for the future. So to me, it's a perfect match, right? Like it matches up exactly.
Seth, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think feeding off of what you said about that long-term side of it, I think about a decade ago, your mom, Anna, was talking about, she got on this kick about being resilient or anti-fragile. Maybe you remember that,
yeah.
right? So like, is it this idea that, you know, companies that are anti-fragile or more resilient are able to more quickly react to the changing environment or adverse conditions, right? So something major comes up, and if you're a resilient company, you can act quickly and you can change course, and you're not going to like lose business. And I think sustainability, it's sustainability or sustainable actions or strategies or initiatives help companies be more resilient. Right. So, you know, like water use, right? Using less water is a sustainable initiative, right? Trying to recapture your water, sustainable initiative. And but then, you know, if you have this major drought and your community can't use water, well, now it's allowing you to be a more resilient company because you're using less and you're a good steward to your community. And so that's, I think for me, is being more sustainable makes you more resilient, which then allows you to be more of a long-term company.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And what I noticed neither of you said was that sustainability is throwing a can into a green bin versus a blue bin, which I think is a really good way to frame what we're going to talk about today,
Yeah.
because sustainability means a heck of a lot more than that.
For sure.
And what you guys mentioned definitely requires action from a lot of different pieces and parts of an organization. But I think it also requires a roadmap and a plan because, again, you're thinking long term. So, Seth, about a month ago, I was sitting in your office, and I remember this. You were talking. I was sort of paying attention. I was also looking over your shoulder at a big giant poster on the wall that had this list of sustainability options or just different elements of sustainability. And that was developed by United Nations, I think. Talk to us a little bit about that poster.
Yeah, so obviously, sustainability and, has been a big topic globally for a long time. And back in 2015, the United Nations met, the General Assembly kind of really got together and developed these Sustainable Development Goals. And so there's 17 goals to really, I think you said like a roadmap, right? It gives companies and organizations around the world a blueprint, right? A similar blueprint and a similar language. And the 17 goals, like you said, like the recycling bin, whether it be blue or green or compost bin, there's a lot more to it than that. So there's a lot more than just solar and wind energy, right? So there's like decent work and making sure that you're providing better work conditions, for your staff and employees. And so that's a goal. No poverty, no hunger.
Big picture goals.
Right. Water management or wildlife, so there's like kind of big meaty goals, but there's 17 goals. So you don't have to just go for recycling or energy. You can pick a goal that aligns with your organization and what's the most meaningful for your staff and for your community.
It makes a lot of sense. And when we were putting together the sustainability report at Ball, were those goals referenced? I think I saw them mentioned in the report, but so those are big picture, overarching goals that a company like Ball or really any of our listeners could pick and choose from, like you said. Makes sense. So, Susannah, how have these UN goals impacted the roadmap Ball established? And this might be a good time early on in the podcast to talk a little bit about some details, some specific examples of sustainability within the Ball companies. Maybe shout out a couple of the projects that stick out in your mind, and then Seth, you can jump in as well, because I know you've taken a overview look at some of the different projects around the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the UN goals, I think, worked perfectly for us as we were trying to set our own goals, right? Because, it is a global framework. So, right, sustainability looks a little bit different in different locations just because it's different, right? They might have different resources that are more scarce. You might be in a drought area versus a wet area, different things like that. So I think it was really helpful. It also expanded, I think, the view a little bit of sustainability. I think people tend to think very environmental, right? Like it's the trash in the rivers, it's the polar bears, it's the, it's like the very environmental stuff. But actually there's a huge sort of social and community aspect to sustainability, which I think the UN goals really capture. So that was a great way to just encompass that and then have something that all of our locations could be looking at the same thing, right? Like it's a common framework. So yeah, it's been super helpful. So the three big ones that we highlight are about climate action. So that's carbon footprint reduction. So I kind of think of that as like our overarching kind of duty as a like being on the planet, right? Then we look at the social side, so looking at wages, benefits, and then the community side, which is kind of like on a local level at every location, are we taking care of the community, both the people in the community, but also the waterways, the waste, all that kind of stuff. So, so some examples, I mean, there's a million examples. You should read the report if you want to learn the examples, but no, some good ones that jump out, I think. The community ones, I think, for me, are always really powerful. So we have a lot of locations where we're trying to do more outreach in the community, especially with kids, like school kids. So like we have Seed Your Future here in the U.S. Here in West Chicago, we have the high schoolers that come through every year. But we've kind of replicated that in a lot of different areas, which I think is really exciting, and it's a really cool way to expose kids that are, maybe in a rural community that don't get exposed to like science and research and all this really neat stuff that we do. I think that's super rewarding, super good for the kids, but also like so rewarding for our staff that can like show what they're doing and what they're excited about. So
Kids tell parents. I've always learned that
Yeah.
is kids come home and tell their parents what they saw. So you're really covering a lot of bases.
yeah,
with
it's very
something
it's
like
very
that.
cool.
Well, and all the just the research about like plants just make people happy, reduce stress, and for kids to be able to like play with soil, and play with plants and exposes them to our world, I think and the fact that, like you said, like so many, I think like 70-80% of our locations
probably.
have
Yeah.
like a thing that they're doing, and I've been seeing customers, and so I think it's an industry thing. It's just like, how do we get more kids involved with plants?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that
That's
one.
awesome.
About some others.
Some others. Bill, you did a podcast not too long ago about plastics and bioplastics, and so one of our locations, Ball Brazil, they do plug production and liner production for their customers in that area, and so they were looking for ways to reduce their plastic tray use, and so they deliver to majority of their customers via their own trucks and their own delivery people.
Yeah.
And so they implemented this reusable tray concept. And I think what's really interesting about it is they brought it into like the very being of who they are, right? So they have reusable trays. The truck drivers know what they are, and they're having conversations when they're delivering the plants, and then they pick up the used trays.
Okay.
The salespeople, when they're working with them and building their orders, there's that conversation. Okay, we're going to deliver these trays, and we're going to pick up the trays. They have systems, and they analyze like, okay, are we getting all the trays back from this region versus this region? So I think that what it shows is it's a great initiative, but for initiatives to really be impactful, like it has to be a company thing, right?
Right.
Everyone has to be involved, and so that's what really struck me as a really great example.
I like that one. That one. Any others that come to mind?
I think water, like we've already talked about it like a bunch of times just in the past few minutes, right? But water is definitely like a something that keeps me up at night, right? Like availability of water is stressful. So at Darwin, Columbia, they've been kind of on a 5-year mission to reduce their water from their wells, from their aquifers, and go to rainwater. So every year they try to either build a new reservoir or expand their reservoir. I think they're up to 80 plus percent.
88% or so.
There we go, 88% of their irrigation and all the water that they use on their farms now comes from rainwater that they've collected. So it's just it gives you like a peace of mind, right? If you have 6 months worth of water like in a big hole out back, all right, like that's a good feeling, right? You're not running any risk, so that's always a good one.
Can we do a fourth?
Yeah, go for it.
I know you're only supposed to do things in three.
Yeah,
so
threes, right?
Bring it forth.
So someone will forget this one or forget one of the other ones. But so with the water one, Ball Chili,
Yeah,
so
super
they
good one.
are in this like massive 10-year drought, and so then like the public was like, oh, plants are bad because they're like using water and we don't have any water. And so, the leadership was like, oh man, we got to change things up. We can't just keep offering the same things. People were like, oh, we can't use these things. And so they went to more drought tolerant plants.
Okay.
They started producing a plug size like a deep 50,
Yeah,
I think
it's
like a deeper one versus a more shallow one. And so then that allows you to like access water at a deeper level. They started kind of promoting more native plants. They started doing like more like rock garden or gravel gardens. So gravel garden, you plant the plug, you put gravel on top, and then it greatly reduces weeds.
Okay.
Weeds use water. And so then they also worked with local municipalities. Like, hey, here is a different style of gardening using a different palette of plants. So that way you can still have plants in the landscape. You can still have beauty. You can do all of the great benefits of plants. You just do it differently. And so I thought that was really admirable that they're looking, and I think it goes back to resilience, right? Like, all right, how are the environment, how's everything changing around me? How can we do things differently to meet the needs of our company?
I like that. And it also goes back to what you said about communication, the fact that they're doing it and then talking to the municipalities, kind of overcoming that hurdle, that negativity, and having some PR that, plants are good. We're working on ways to make it, less impactful to the, in a drought condition. I really like that. All right. I know that Ball has made a lot of investments to support most of these initiatives that you guys talked about. I'm also aware that some sustainability projects that companies pursue actually reduce cost or are cost beneficial. And Ball's a business, like most entities in our industry. So I have to ask this question, or someone else will. How do the investments in sustainability impact the cost of running a business? And Susannah, I'm going to let you tackle this one.
Oh, good.
So maybe talk a little bit about how benefits and payback can be calculated, not like from a accounting point of view, but yeah, how does investments like this impact just running a business cost?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I do truly believe, right, like making these investments in sustainability is the cost of doing business. Like I just think that's where we are in the world right now. But when you say that, right, there's all different types of sustainability, right? There are ones that actually are savings, right?
Sure.
Where you have a really fast payback and it goes on to save you money for many years, right? Solar panels is like the classic example of that. It's super easy to calculate it. We actually had a solar array that we put up in Venhausen in the Netherlands that was less than a 2-year payback.
wow.
And the Netherlands is not sunny,
No.
right? Like if you've never been, not known for their sunshine. So, that's a great way to save money in sustainability. And then there are ones where, you do have to spend money, right? We're working right now down at Linda Vista on a big water treatment project. It's like a 3-year project. It will cost money, right? But it's going to avoid us a lot of headaches in the future, and it's getting us prepared for regulations that we need to comply with, right? So it's like, you got to do it, right? But then I think some of the more interesting ones maybe are the ones that are a little bit less easy to calculate, right? You talk about a lot of the social kind of initiatives that we have, social benefits. So at a lot of our farms, for example, we have medical staff there to help people because it's a rural area. It's hard for people to get to the doctor. So we'll have medical staff on hand, which is awesome. It's a huge benefit. We might look at, should we add another nurse? That's a little harder to look at a payback, right? But you got to imagine that that's going to make it a better place for people to work. They're going to stay. Your turnover is going to go down. Your training costs are going to go down. Your onboarding costs are going to go down. Your quality is going to be better because you have more experienced workers, right? So it's a little bit hard to put a pencil to paper on some of that, but it's definitely makes us a more resilient company moving forward. So I think there's a big mix of kind of what investment looks like in sustainability.
And I think just almost what's the cost of not doing some of these things.
Exactly.
So I mean, you hit on a lot of things, but in compliance side,
Right.
right? Putting watching what you're putting back into your water stream, right? And it's thinking customers around the country and even small grower retailers where you're not necessarily looking at, you're so focused on producing a great plant that looks good that someone wants, and are you looking at all the places that your water's going to? And sometimes it's an accident, right? You got your fertilizer, you have some chemicals running off, and then, it's going somewhere, you didn't realize it, city shows up, oh, here's a $50,000 fine that you're not prepared for.
Right.
So there's a compliance aspect to it. I think the other aspect when we look at, the staff and employees, what's the cost of losing someone really great? If anyone has ever tried to hire someone in the last 5 years, someone really good is really hard to find. And I think generally sustainability, whether you're pro sustainability, right? It's just about doing better and doing good, and people feel good about it, right? If you're being a good steward to your community and you're reducing your water use or reducing your plastic or finding ways to help your staff and community, people are going to feel better, and it's going to be more aligned as a company to their staff. One thing we look at, because we're pretty large footprint here in West Chicago, and we have a lot of people doing a lot of different things, is recruiting is challenging. And so a recent report from Deloitte put out that 70% of Gen Z and millennial potential employees will make decisions based on how that company's ethics and environmental practices align with like how they are as a person. Right. So I think it's, going back to like, if you're not doing these things, you're not preparing for the future for being aligned with your staff.
So it benefits your labor acquisition. It benefits it heads off regulations that are probably coming more quickly than most people think. So it is definitely a good long-term approach. And I do appreciate you guys for addressing that topic head on. And I know the listeners are going to appreciate it too. Speaking, and you talked a little bit about it, Seth, all these different businesses in our industry, it's kind of the beauty of our industry, in my opinion. Taking steps toward a better and more sustainable future requires teamwork. And you guys asked me before we recorded, like, what am I most excited about getting out of this podcast? And this really is that it is a team approach. It's not just top down. It's not just one person within a company that's passionate about this. It really does require teamwork. Can't be done by one single person. Susannah, I'm interested if you can cite some examples of teamwork that have resulted in some of these exciting new initiatives or projects, just ways that groups have gotten involved at Ball, and then maybe how that can translate to other businesses and folks listening to this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds kind of annoying to say maybe, but like literally every single accomplishment that we've made has been the result of teamwork. So one of the things we did very early on is we set up green teams at every location. So really kind of trying to like empower the people on the ground, like the people at every site around the world, to think about like what's important to you, what's important in your area, what's important to your company, because that's going to look different for everyone, right? And if it's important, then you'll probably work on it more, right? Like, who am I to tell you what to do? You figure it out, right? So I think that those teams have been super powerful and like just super, really the ones that have driven almost every initiative that you'll read about in the report. So that's really good. But then the next challenge, right, is then how do you get those teams working together? So that's been a big focus that we've put in the past 5 years, is on kind of that internal communication. So we have a newsletter, like an internal newsletter that goes out every month or 10 times a year, I think, something like that. We try to hold a summit every year or twice a year where we get all those teams on one call and just kind of show examples. So just really trying to get that communication between locations, which I think is really, really important.
Can I jump in a little bit on the green team
Yeah.
So I think that, especially thinking about, a lot of our Ball customers, like grower retailers around North America, is, having a green team made up of like different people in your organization, right? So like if you're a small business, you're like, hey, thinking that, maybe we could, look at some different ways to be more sustainable. Who wants to meet for coffee? Like Thursday morning maybe you do an hour before you open up. Like I'm just thinking of a retail. I spend a lot of time at retail, right? So like if you open up at 8 o'clock, we'll meet at 7. Owner brings in donuts and coffee, right? And you get someone from customer service and maybe from accounting. And you get some different people just talking about like, hey, what might we do? It's not like what you're gonna do, definitely. But you kind of come up with a list. You talk about it like once a month. And, then by having different people from different parts of the company with different expertise and different knowledge, so that way when you're trying to tackle something, you're coming at it from a lot of different angles, which is super important because you need a lot of different viewpoints to solve complex issues.
And different people are going to be passionate about different things, which creates that buy-in. It's not one person sitting in an office telling you what to do. It's not Susannah in West Chicago telling the folks in Brazil what to do, what's important to them. That doesn't work.
Exactly.
Well, it's very much like you're not doing top down, right? You're not like, no one can use any more plastic bags. Like, you're not going to do it, right? It's like you're empowering your team to come up with ideas, and then you're saying, hey, what can we do together? And so it's like really kind of bottom up, and then through that you're creating better engagement with your team, right? You're giving them a voice. They're going to feel more loyal. Like, my boss cares about me and it's giving me a chance to do better,
Right.
for our community.
Right.
No, I like that.
And then you don't have to be the expert too, right? Because I think a lot of people get sort of nervous about sustainability, like, well, I don't really know, like, I don't know what I should be doing. Like, guaranteed there's someone in your organization that is super passionate on their own time and like has ideas already about what you could be doing. So just like, giving them that opportunity to talk and show that you're interested and want to start taking steps is huge.
So you're saying, like, if you're not an expert, you just have to be willing to do something.
Yeah, and willing to listen and like, try new things for sure.
Yeah.
And you'll have someone in your organization who's passionate about a community cause too, that you can then align with, and that creates even more internal buy-in, and can expose people within your organization or your business to what's, different things that are going on in the community they might not even be aware of. So no, I really like that. Ball is a global company. We talked a little bit, we've talked a lot about projects going on around the world and the UN sustainability poster, which is very global. How has this being a global company influenced our approach to sustainability? And Susannah, this one's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're massively lucky, right, that we have this global reach, because it does, like, it gives us such a like richer mindset when we think about these sustainability topics. Because like, every geography has a different thing that they're dealing with, whether it's a law, right? Like you look at the EU, they have much stricter limits on chemical usage and stuff like that. So like, they're kind of already working on stuff that we might not need to work on for 10 years or something. And then you also just look at resource constraint. Like we talked about Chile, right?
Yeah.
They came up with this idea around the drought because they had a drought and they had to face it. So now that's kind of a playbook for other locations that might be starting to experience more drought. So just kind of having that web of different challenges that people have overcome, I think is really powerful. But it also means we have to facilitate that communication, right? Because it can also be like, oh, did you know Chile's doing this thing? Oh, wow, I hadn't heard about it, right?
Sure.
So I think that puts a part of the burden on me and Seth, is to sort of try to be those communicators. And that's a big driver behind the report, is just sharing these stories so that, external people can see it, but also internally. Like, that's kind of our goal in the report, is like, read through it and like, wow, I could do that at my location, whether that's Ball or a garden center or a plug grower, anyone. So,
For sure. Well, that's a perfect segue to my next question, which is about this report. And I did read the report. I do know the projects that are going on.
Okay. What does page 12? What does
Talk about Ball Seed Technical Services.
you are so correct. Wow, that was awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about the report. It's in print, it's online, it's being shared pretty widely. I did, we were talking, I remember we printed one of these like 10 years ago. I remembered it was blue.
2008 and 2013.
Okay, but I think Ball hasn't been extremely vocal externally about such a range of projects and the things that we've heard about. So why the report and why now?
Yeah, great question. So why the report, we'll get into. There's a lot of reasons for the report, but why now? We have a board member who is very active on sustainability. He has his own family company, and he's kind of like led them through this really kind of sustainable. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Anyway, we have a board member who's very passionate about sustainability, and one of his mottos, he calls it "Be, Do, Say." Yeah. So it's a little bit like crawl, walk, run, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, first you have to be this mindset, right? Like you have to kind of have this like belief that sustainability is the way to go, and then you have to do it, right? You have to start taking all these actions, and then you can kind of start to talk about it, right? So that's kind of his like very kind of humble sort of, Well,
it's a journey, really, and you can't do it backwards or it's really fake something.
Right. You're like, we're awesome, and then oh shoot, guys, we should do something. So that was kind of like the reason for kind of taking our time. We really wanted to sort of have our own like feel confident about our internal actions before we started to go out there and talk about it. But on the flip side, we have to be out there talking about it, right? We have to start to raise this as an industry issue, because I do think, like you said, like it'll be here before we know it, some of these things. So
Well, and just like you said, like just the communication, like so internally and externally, we've been doing these things for the last, well, we kind of set the goals 5 years ago.
right.
And so we've, so I came in 5 months ago,
Right.
right? And so a lot of challenge, a lot of companies have.
You didn't come into Ball 5 months.
Oh, yeah. I've been here for a while.
Fair enough.
Probably
Almost 2 decades.
Almost 20
2 decades. Well, not yet, but like,
Amazing.
You were a
yeah, so
child.
I was. No, it's fine. Sorry, I digress. So, a lot of companies, so someone might be watching this or listening. They're like, oh, I want to be more sustainable, and it's not quite aligning with their leadership, right? So they got to go in. They got to like try to convince them. And if that's you, reach out to us, right? We can have some great conversation.
Absolutely.
But when I came in, Susannah already kind of laid a lot of groundwork, and a lot of the companies have bought in, right? Like they, or all the companies that are locations say, okay, we need to be more sustainable. We're going to work on these goals, and so people are engaged. But what we want to do with the report is share those stories that we hear, that Susannah was hearing, so that way everyone's like, oh wow, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that this was going on with Chile. And might I do that? Or I didn't realize that Brazil was doing this. Might I do that?
Yeah.
And so I think that's been an important piece, as a little bit of a celebration, a little bit of idea sharing internally. But then externally is, we do want it to be a conversation starter, right? Like sustainability as a whole is super complex. And we talk about like how you need a lot of different minds on it. And so, with this is it is public, it's out there online and podcast or vidcast.
Yeah.
Sure. Call it what you
Yeah. So, but, we want to have that conversation. So if people want to reach out to us, we want to have these conversations on like what is the future for landscape, for nursery, for greenhouse, and what place does Ball play in that?
Yeah, and I think it's really about inspiration, right? Like we said, sustainability it's a huge topic. It's a messy topic. There's no like one way to do it. So the more I know when I started 5 years ago, I wasn't a sustainability expert, right? So what did I do? I just went out and saw what other companies were doing, right? Like I don't know, what are they up to? Like Trex we talked about before the thing, right? Like what are different companies doing on sustainability? And then you go through, and some of it, I'm like, well, we could never do that. And some of it, you're like, wow, that's a cool idea. So I think kind of that's how we got started. And so I think there's a certain amount of like kind of pay it forward, right? Like we want to now inspire other people based on what we've managed to do to get their own ideas and start taking their own action.
And hopefully, people can go through the report and, like literally circle the things oh yeah, we could do some water capture, or, oh, we could reuse plastic, or, oh, we could, they could literally just circle things and talk about it like as a company, like, hey, let's copy this, right? Why reinvent the wheel? Like,
please do.
Copy it,
exactly.
duplicate it. If you need more details, we'll hook you up,
Absolutely.
because we want to, help other people.
And it's broken down into products, people, and planet, which every company in our industry sells products, has people, and we are the green industry. So we should be caring about the planet.
If they're not on our planet, I would like to know. That'd be pretty cool to see what was happening on that.
It could be any planet, I think, technically.
Whatever planet you're on, protect that one. Yeah.
So as we wrap this episode up, I'm really, really grateful that you guys agreed to join me and talk about sustainability and really just the importance of doing better. And I always ask this question at the end of every podcast: what have we missed? So I'm interested if anything that we wanted to talk, that you guys wanted to talk about that we didn't. And then what's next for Ball? Because this report and what's been done over the past 5 years, I would wager that it's probably more like decades, isn't the end. It's really just, this is an ongoing initiative for Ball. So what have we missed, and what's next for Ball? Seth, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, wait, which questions first?
Well, it could be what have we missed, or anything you want to reiterate, any great
I
words
got
of
one that we missed real quick,
okay.
just to
All right, good.
just to
Since I
throw
was
it in
late.
there. Yeah, is certifications. We didn't talk about that at all, but that has been a really, really important tool for us as we've worked through this. Is choosing a certifying body, aligning yourself with it. It's an awesome education for your staff, for you. It keeps you accountable, right? Like you got to check in. So I would just give a huge shout out to to certifications. We've been working with them.
We list them
It's on
too.
page 4.
There you go. It's on page 4.
Early.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's especially like if you don't know how to start or where to go, it's an easy roadmap. Like it'll tell you exactly what to do and what you need to be hitting. So sorry.
No, I like that.
That was really good.
Thanks. Yeah, I
I
just
think we missed any
came
other
to me.
thing.
I was like, oh my gosh, we didn't talk about that. Yeah.
I'll give it some thought. Yeah, so maybe like a what next?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes into something slightly we missed yet too. Okay, so so certifications are important, and the other kind of aspect that Susannah really kind of taught me early on 5 months ago was that is tracking, collecting data, knowing what you're doing now,
Right.
to create a baseline. So I already use water as an example, right? Like you need to know how much water are you using to create that baseline, and then if you make any changes, like is your changes making an impact?
Right. Measure against the baseline.
Yeah, yeah. So let's change our nozzles. Okay, you look at it a couple months, doesn't have an impact. We are using booms instead of watering wands, right? And so I think tracking is really important. And so one of the things that's what's next for Ball is we're looking at ways to bring, because we have all these locations, and so it's a lot of data. It's a bit more segmented that we want. And so we want to kind of have a dashboard and bring it together. And from there, it'll create greater visibility and transparency internal.
Yeah.
Right. So we can say, oh, okay, here's where we're making a lot of progress, because it's like the information's right there. You got the data, you got the green check, you have the yellow circle, and you got the red X. I don't know, I'm making that up, but like you have like progress, and then so I think that'll help. So that way we know where we stand and where we need to put more effort, or like maybe even just like low hanging fruit.
Right.
I like that, yeah. Because dashboards, and we use a lot of dashboards at Ball to track things. It's a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
A lot of dashboards, and I think it's
A lot of
because
information.
I suspect it's because plant people aren't always numbers people, so it's like
You
really
gotta
nice to have
kinda,
a snapshot. But what it also does is it gives you a quick look each morning or each week at how you're doing on something, and it makes sense. It's sustainability would fall right into that. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, and I do think sustainability, right? Like it is, it's a good way to make sure that you really are having an impact, right? Like, and this is not just at Ball, but like in sustainability in general, right? Like it's easy to say like, oh, this is a green product, right? But like, is it really, yeah, it's easy to make a claim, I guess. So yeah, I think the tracking and the reporting is really important, and we're gonna have to do it in the future, right? Like this kind of reporting and data collection, I think will be required at some point. So the faster that we can kind of get it organized and have a plan to do it is really good.
Well, and it's cool that a family-owned private business is doing that, because you're not doing it to answer to to investors. You're not doing it to generate more venture capital money or do some sort of Wall Street report that requires it. So I applaud Ball for doing
But it
that.
does really, it empowers that communication, right? So instead of saying, oh, we're saving some carbon, we can say, oh, we've reduced our carbon by 25% by doing these, and then it gives you a chance to empower your staff, employees, managers, like, hey, we're making progress by doing this specific thing.
Right.
We need to do more of that or less of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay tuned for the next sustainability report, I think, because hopefully it will have a lot more of this like true data and like, okay, looking over 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, like what have we really been able to accomplish? Yeah, like numerically or however you want to say it.
No, it's metrics. I like it. And within, other companies in our industry, folks listening, you can create that sort of dashboard approach or that snapshot of, the gains that you've made or the benefits that your sustainability initiatives have had. That's the perfect thing to share in that Thursday morning coffee and donuts meeting to really get everybody on the same page. I like that.
I have a quick one missed.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Nice. Look at that.
We have a Spanish version as well. Certainly our industry has a lot of Spanish primary. Some of our locations are Spanish primary. You want to pronounce? You know Spanish? Can you? I'm gonna butcher it.
Sembrando sostenibilidad. To be honest, that's a really hard word for me to say, sustainability in Spanish, but I've been practicing, so hopefully that was all right. But yeah, available English and Spanish in print and also
Online,
digitally.
yeah.
Yep.
Where do folks find these online?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. So they can go to ballhort.com.
Yep.
And then on the base, there's a little sustainability link. Would be a great place. Or actually, that'll run with the podcast there as well.
Yeah.
So.
For sure, and I'll put it in the show notes for
Yeah.
folks who want to.
Yeah, and could you put like maybe our email address in the show notes as well?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Could you? Yeah. So then, if
Absolutely.
anyone wants to reach out to us, we
Reach out.
want to have conversations.
Seth and Susanna are more than happy to talk to you, as are most folks at Ball. You probably ask your Ball Seed sales rep, and they're somewhat versed in the sustainability report as well, and can talk about efforts that folks in your local region or community are doing as well. And then maybe you can reach out and collaborate with other businesses near you.
Yeah, and we would love to hear those stories too. Like
sure.
we're not pretending to be the experts here. So if someone has figured something out that's cool and exciting, yeah, we would love to hear about it. So
Excellent. Well, Susanna and Seth, thank you so much. I do appreciate your time. Sitting down and talking about this, it went pretty well. Don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. You're the
hope so.
podcast expert. What did it go well?
You have to let us
I
know.
feel like I listen to what the guests say. I mean, I think they're all great. Speaking of which, I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and if you like this installment, be sure to subscribe to the Tech on Demand podcast on your favorite app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just about all the major ones. You'll find more than 200 episodes now. This is yeah. We were trying to get this to be number 200,
Are we
but
too?
Timing
it's
didn't
be like
work.
205 or something.
It's
pretty
way above 200.
There you go. There you go. We cover all sorts of topics, professional greenhouse topics, and follow Ball Seed on YouTube for hundreds of videos. We're releasing them just about every week now. So until next time, take care out there. Work on sustainability. Let it trickle through your entire organization, and you will see the benefits.
Ciao.
Bye.